So apparently, a school district in Illinois heard from upset parents after children started talking about what they were learning about LGBT sex in school. And apparently, the response from the the school district's leaders, was pretty pathetic, to say the least.
What was it like? We don't care. We're teaching you this.
Right?
Your kids need to know this.
Right.
You bigots. How dare you?
This is from the Federalist. Six crazy school district responses to parents mad about LGBT indoctrination of preschoolers.
Wow. Preschoolers.
Preschoolers, yes.
Whoa.
This took place now. Now, many of you probably paid attention to the article that we posted. I believe this was. I want to say it was maybe 2 weeks ago. We posted a link about this particular curriculum being taught in Chicago, Illinois, in
Oh,
Illinois schools. I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
even
that we posted
remember.
that. I don't know.
These
Maybe I
things are
saw
all
it.
running. We probably did, but I don't. This day these
Between,
things
I
are
mean,
running.
between that and California, it's hard to keep up.
Yes, definitely.
So anywho, suburban Chicago school. So apparently, it's their school district, and apparently, it was between October the 7th and the 11th. It was that particular week that they introduced LGBT curriculum. And from what I've read, it's required by all of the public school systems there in Illinois.
This is a state law,
I have a question for
a
you,
curriculum.
Illinois people. Do you say it Illinois or Illinois? Because I have been corrected by some people that live there, and I've heard it two different ways from people who live there. I've heard Illinois and Illinois.
I personally like Illinois. I don't like the other one. What's the other one?
Illinois.
Yeah, I don't like that. And like, there's two of them. There's like, it's not plural. Let's just call it Illinois. We should all agree on that.
That's hilarious. Anywho, please come and correct my husband if he's wrong. Anywho, so what happened is that so the particular district is Evanston, and I believe was it Skokie school
Skokie.
district. And now this is the clincher. Okay, so I would assume that most of you are that you're hearing this and you're automatically thinking, okay, well this must have been some really hard right Republicans that were very upset about this. This particular district that received a lot of complaints, dozens of complaints apparently from parents, was actually in a very liberal area
Oh,
in
really?
Illinois. Yeah. And so some of the things that was being taught is things like, now mind you, preschool age.
Preschool.
Preschool
I
age.
can't. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So they're teaching things like, polyamorous families are equivalent to families of sexually faithful, married, biological parents. That being gay
Poly,
simply means love someone of your own sex.
polyamorous. Now, what is that?
Polyamorous is essentially, and I am condensing the meaning of this. We're going to be talking about this kind of stuff a little bit more. But what polyamorous is essentially it's when there's either two females and a man, one man and two females, basically all in a relationship together, all cohabiting
Oh,
together. A lot of them have children together. Yeah,
wow.
I'm not really sure sometimes though, but mind you, it's essentially it's just an open relationship is what I call it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm sure that's offensive to people out there, but that's what it is. Um, so according to a local newspaper called the Evanston Roundtable, they put the highlights in there. So these were the 6 highlights of responses that were given, and I'm going to get through these as
Wow.
best I can. So number one was teaching transgenderism to preschoolers is age appropriate.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, this was a response according to a letter that was sent on September 24th, apparently, that said that it was very age appropriate, that the content of the curriculum was very age appropriate, which was interesting to me
Amazing.
because I'm not really sure that preschool age is an age. I mean, children are already very inquisitive at that age. Children are in discovery mode. I find it interesting, though, that they believe that now's the time to introduce this while a child is in
Of
discovery
course,
mode.
it's a time to because you're
Yeah,
trying to mold them.
yeah. And I'm going to get to some of that a little bit later, what this article actually made me think of. So, this particular article, in my article last week, this is the author of this particular article here with the Federalist said, I sampled the district's age appropriate curriculum for children ages 3 to 5. It included numerous LGBT picture books, such as the well known Heather Has Two Mommies and They, He, She, Easy as ABC. And that is about using trans pronouns. So, again,
They're teaching kids and preschoolers to use trans pronouns.
yes, but it's not indoctrination at
Oh
all.
my
It's not
gosh.
indoctrination of any kind. So, preschoolers were told things like, they can be just like a transgender teen celebrity named Jazz Jennings. That transgender means having one sex's body, but a different sex's brain. They're being taught, we are all allowed to choose what gender we are. There was even a video that was shown. I believe it's called The Princess Boy. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe that's what it was called. Yes. And some of you may be familiar with that. That has come across some of these books in local bookstores. Even, I know Barnes and Noble is one of the ones that you can find a lot of these books now. So, reason number 2, sex education isn't sex education.
Okay.
That's pretty original.
That's very original.
So the district assistant superintendent for the curriculum actually said, there's nothing in the district's LGBT curriculum that overlaps with sexual education that would require any form of opt-out that state law requires, which I thought was interesting of her to say. Number 3, religion has nothing to say about sex. This was a weird response. It's almost like no one asked them or even brought up religion, and they brought up religion, which obviously the author
very
talks about in here.
Very reflexive.
Exactly. And
It's like,
one of the people on the board actually said, this is not a curriculum that is advocating any form. I'm going to say this very slowly. They said, this is not a curriculum that is advocating any form of sexuality.
oh, okay.
They're literally,
All
we're not
right.
teaching children anything about sexuality. Nothing is happening here.
Very strong.
Anywho, let's deliberately keep parents in the dark. The school board also, that's number 4, let's deliberately keep parents in the dark. The school board also discussed what to do. This one was interesting to me. The school board also discussed what to do about the fact that parents were keeping their kids home from school during the LGBT week to protect their kids. So her solution to that was not telling people the time of the curriculum is an option.
Wow.
So that the parents can be completely unaware that the LGBT curriculum is even being taught and what week.
It's amazing how entitled these teachers are to your children.
Yeah.
They feel like that you have no say and just
that's what it looks like.
These are their children.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it. And how dare you even think you would have the ability to try to hinder anything they would try to teach your children.
Yeah.
Like these teachers and these school officials are they're so far out of bounds.
Well, that's what happens when government basically contaminates the school.
Yeah.
Because then you have that same mindset of, well, government can do it better. I can teach your child better. Your child should know this, and that teacher's own philosophies are being inserted.
Yes.
Into an already broken education system as it is, but now that's being inserted as well.
And also, there's something else to speak to as far as like they want to teach these things at all cost, but they don't want to teach these children how to read at all cost. Because I mean, you look at some of the children in Illinois and Chicago, a lot of black children are graduating and don't even know how to read. But they'll do this at all cost. This will be number one top priority. We got to bend the rules. We got to do everything we got to do. They won't bend the rules, do everything they got to do, bend over backwards, jump out of a window, go against everything to teach a kid how to read, but they'll do everything in their power to make sure that kid knows you can be any sex you want to be and gender doesn't exist and all
and use the right pronouns.
Things that will totally just screw a kid's head up.
Yeah. So number 5, differences of opinion make people fearful, quote unquote, unsafe. Apparently, this particular board complained that they were not safe anywhere outside of their homes.
That's like the liberals' favorite buzzword
Yeah,
is unsafe. That's how
yeah,
they deflect anything. Like, I
yeah,
don't feel safe, so you need to
exactly.
stop being against
Exactly.
what I want.
You need to stop talking to me and disagreeing with me because then I'm going to feel unsafe and then I mean I may have to go to the government and tell them that I feel unsafe and then the government may have to get involved
Well,
and come up with a trigger word that we can't say anymore so that I don't feel triggered.
and just in all honesty, these teachers,
Oh my god.
instead of being fake unsafe because that's not real,
Yeah.
they should really feel unsafe.
Yeah.
They shouldn't feel unsafe doing this to these children,
Mhm.
and these parents should be making them feel very unsafe. They should be up in their faces every single day. They should be up at that school acting
We're
a fool.
we are not advocating for violence
No,
of
there's
any
no
kind.
advocating. I'm talking about they need to be up in there in their faces, letting them know like this is not okay.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be comfortable. You need to be feeling uncomfortable everywhere you're at because we're up in your face about this.
This is true. Number 6, and this is the last one, no opt-outs allowed. And I think that number 6 is the most important one on this list because it points to, I believe, what the true agenda is about.
Yeah.
At an October 7th school board meeting, one of the administrators said she had just spent 30 minutes on the phone explaining to a parent why there was no opt out, the roundtable reported. As I reported earlier, the next day, school board president Cartha sent parents and staff a statement. Our administration has heard from a number of parents who want the ability to opt their children out of this curriculum. The District 65 Board of Education does not support allowing students to opt out of this or any curriculum that seeks to include a more complete account of the role of historically marginalized people in our society.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to read that last sentence really quick. The District 65 Board of Education does not support allowing students to opt out of this or any curriculum that seeks to include a more complete account. See, that's your trigger word. That's those key words.
Yeah.
Complete account of the role of historically marginalized people in our society. I think that number 6 needs to be the one that we pay attention to the most because this is where the agenda truly lies. They're not allowing parents to have an option, which is taking the power that parents have over their own children completely away. And once again, it's government coming in and saying, well, this is how we feel. It's not about facts, and it's actually not about your opinion about your own children. This is how we feel, and we're going to impose this on some very, very young, easily manipulated minds in a school setting, which I think is interesting. So one of the things that this actually reminded me of, we've been talking a lot on this show. You guys know this. We've been talking a lot about the sexualization of children. Now, that may make some of you uncomfortable because I've heard people say it's such a strong word, but I think that we have to be honest about this. And it actually made me think about um, Aldous Huxley's book, Brave New World. And so it made me think of the part, and I'm going to go to it really quickly here. This was the part in chapter 3. If you have not read this book, I encourage you to. It's kind of like Orwell's 1984. It's something that makes you, takes you back, but also takes you forward at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And so in this particular, and it's so crazy because I haven't picked up this book in a while, but this was just at the beginning of chapter 3. And I don't know if you guys who have read this remember this part, but this is when the director is walking around with the children in the garden. So I'm going to read some of this. Outside in the garden, it was playtime. Naked in the warm June sunshine, 600 or 700 little boys and girls were running with shrill yells all over the lawns, or playing ball games, or squatting silently in twos and threes among the flowering shrubs. In a little grassy bay between tall clumps of Mediterranean heather, 2 children, a little boy of about 7 and a little girl who might have been a year older, were playing, very gravely and with all the focused attention of scientist intent on a labor of discovery, a rudimentary sexual game. From a neighboring shrubbery emerged a nurse, leading by the hand a small boy who howled as he went. An anxious looking little girl trotted at her heels. "What's the matter?" asked the director. The nurse just shrugged her shoulders. "Nothing much," she answered. "It's just that this little boy seems rather reluctant to join in the ordinary erotic play." And that's what this reminded me of. What I just read to you, it's in chapter 3, pages 31 and into 32. And it reminded me of this because in this particular part of the book, there was a lot of attention that was placed on the sexualization of children.
Yeah.
And they had a special game where it was about erotic play and it was about erotic discovery. And they let the children play in the garden in the naked, in the sun, in the sunshine, and let them discover and do things to each other that they wanted to. And the director loved this and encouraged this behavior. There's even a part when you go further to the beginning of the book. I think it's in chapter 2, where the nurse is talking about having 40 minutes of erotic play. And I know that something like this may sound outlandish because, this is just a book. But I think that it points to the fact that these are the types of books, the type of futuristic content that we find that very alarmingly mirrors what we are seeing today.
Yeah,
Because essentially this is to me what this reminds me of.
Yeah, because in the book, the point was they wanted people to, they wanted to devalue sex, they decouple it from love.
Yes.
So they want people to feel like it's just some empty
That sex
thing.
is just an object.
Yeah, sex is just an empty, and you don't even belong to yourself anyway. So why does it even matter?
That was one of their mantras, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone belongs to everyone.
Yeah,
everyone belongs to everyone.
Yeah.
That's what they would say.
So they're trying to erase what it is. Like, that's erasing individuality. It's erasing who you are, who God made you as your sex and your identity with that, and you just take
your
that
ability,
away.
your ability to love, and your ability to connect with another human being.
It makes you wonder why a lot of these kids are walking around here very, very dark and depressed.
Exactly.
Because when you don't have that, I mean, that's a big thing not to have.
Yeah. So please let us know if you are living in this school, if you're living in this school district, if your children even go to the school, if you're living in Chicago, message us and let us know what your thoughts are. We would love to hear from you guys. We like to hear back from people who, live in the cities and the states that we're talking about on this show because it's important. Your voice matters, and what you have to say matters, especially when it comes to your children. And so if you have not, I'm not trying to advertise for this book, but if you have not read it, I think it's important that you include it on your reading list because it is very profound in as we go into 2020 when you read it and you compare it to, what we see now. So some of you may think it's a little extreme. We don't, because again, if we're passive and we're complacent, then we end up seeing things like this that we don't think are possible, but they are. So until next time, you guys, take care.